Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna Balaram Krishna Balaram Krishna Balaram Jaya Radha Kama Sundara Kama Sundara Radhe Jaya Gauranithai 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 Jaya Gauranithai Nithai Gaur Hari Bol Hari Bol Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Jaya जय श्रीपाद परमहंस प्रभुपाचार्य अष्टोत्तर शत कृष्ण कृपा मूर्ति अभय चरणारविंद भक्तिवेदांत संस्कृपाद की ISKCON BBD फाउंडर श्रीपाद की जय श्रीपाद परमहंस प्रभुपाचार्य अष्टोत्तर शत कृष्ण कृपा मूर्ति भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी ठाकुर कृपाद की नामाचार्य श्रीहरिदास ठाकुर की प्रेम से गो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद की जय। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। So Hare Krishna everybody. So this evening we are reading from Bhagavad Gita as it is. So 15th chapter Purushottam Yoga. So today we'll be speaking on verse number 11. Yatanto yoginaś cainaṁ paśyanty ātmany avasthitam yatanto akṛtātmāno nainaṁ paśyati acetasaḥ yatanto yoginaś cainaṁ paśyanty ātmany avasthitam yatanto akṛtātmāno nainaṁ paśyantya acetasaḥ. Yatanto yoginaś cainaṁ paśyantya ātmany avasthitam. Yatantopi akṛtātmāno nainaṁ paśyantya acetasaḥ. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. The endeavoring transcendentalists who are situated in self-realization can see all this clearly. But those whose minds are not developed and who are not situated in self-realization cannot see what is taking place, though they may try. Purport. There are many transcendentalists on the path of self-realization, but one who is not situated in self-realization cannot see how things are changing in the body of the living entity. The word yogina is significant in this connection. In the present day, there are many so-called yogis and there are many so-called associations of yogis, but they are actually blind in the matter of self-realization. They are simply addicted to some sort of gymnastic exercise and are satisfied if the body is well built and healthy. They have no other information, akṛtātmāno. Even though a system, they are not self-realized. Such people cannot understand the process of the transmigration of the soul. Only those who are actually in yoga system and have realized the self, the world, and the Supreme Lord. In other words, the Bhakti Yogis, those engaged in pure devotional service in Krishna consciousness, can understand how things are taking place. So now today we are taking the verse number 11. So just for to have a proper link, now from verse 7 until this 11th verse, Krishna has explained about the living entity and the transmigration. If we see the verse, you can see the translation, Mamaya Omsho Jiva Loke. So in the verse 7th verse, Krishna explained, the living entities in this conditioned world are my eternal fragmental parts. Due to conditioned life, they are struggling very hard with the six senses, which include the mind. So in the 7th verse, Krishna explained how all the living entities, especially who are conditioned in the material world, how they are struggling with the six senses, which includes the mind, 5 working senses and the mind. And we should know mind is the commander. So now next, the 3 verses, Krishna is explaining about the transmigration, about the living entity, how a person transmigrates. So next verse, Krishna explains the living entity in the material world carries his different conceptions of life from one body to another as the air carries aromas. Thus he takes one kind of body and again quits to take another. Now in this verse, Krishna clearly explains that our consciousness will carry us to the next body. So in the 13th chapter, 13.22, Krishna explained that Karanam Gunasangasya Sad Asad Yonisu Janmasu. So a person throughout the life, in whatever thought process he is engaged, in goodness, passion, ignorance. So that kind of body will create, his mind will create that kind of consciousness, and the material nature will give him that kind of body. So further, in the 9th verse, Krishna explained that the living entity, thus taking another gross body, obtains a certain type of ear, eye, tongue, nose, and sense of touch, which are good about the mind. He thus enjoys a particular set of sense objects. Now here, the Lord explains that a living entity, now we have like 84 lakh species of life. So each living entity, for example, a dog or a hog or a cat, a human being. So everyone has a particular type of eye, ear, tongue, nose, sense of touch. So our body basically is made of 5 material objects according to the consciousness of a person. So here in this verse, Krishna explains how a person gets a body according to the person's taste. Then in the 10th verse, Lord Krishna explains that the foolish cannot understand how a living entity can quit his body, nor can they understand what sort of body he enjoys under the spell of the modes of nature. But one whose eyes are trained in knowledge can see all this. So, in this verse, what Krishna has explained exactly, like today's medical science, what they say, clinically dead. If one breathing stops, what they say, he is clinically dead. So what here Krishna explains that the foolish cannot understand how the living entity can quit his body, nor they can understand what sort of body he enjoys under the spell of the modes of nature. So under the modes of material nature, living entities in the 14 planetary system, they are enjoying according to their modes. So Prabhupada explains it depends upon in what kind of mode we are associated. So, but in the end, Krishna explains, but one whose eyes are trained in knowledge can see all this. So now, in Bhagavad Gita, 5th chapter, Krishna explained that Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmane Gavyahasini Shuni Chaiva Supakecha Pandita Samadarshana. So now we come to today's verse, and what we see in today's verse, what Krishna explains that the endeavoring transcendentalists who are situated in self-realization can see all this clearly. But those whose minds are not developed and who are not situated in self-realization cannot see what is taking place, though they may try. Now, in today's verse, basically Krishna explains that how in material world, endeavoring transcendentalists, so there are different varieties of people in the material world. So basically what we see from verse 7 until this 11, the living entity, how he transmigrates, which is being clearly explained by Krishna. And what is the cure? That for this is Krishna says that knowledge, those whose eyes are trained in knowledge, by hearing and learning Shastras, one can see. So what we see in the material world, basically today, people more or less, what Prabhupada explains, they are totally blind towards spirituality. But we see in the Srimad Bhagavatam, in the 9th canto, there is a story of King Rantidev. So in one verse it is mentioned that Rantidev Harim Sarvatra Sampashyan. That means he always saw that Lord situated in everyone's heart. So it is mentioned that one time Rantidev, he was undertaking a fast for 48 days. So it is mentioned that after finishing his 48 days fast, he was given some prasad along with water. So of which he shared half part with the family, and with the half part when he was about to break his fast. So it is mentioned that a Brahmana came, so he gave half that food to that Brahmana. So after that there was another visitor, he gave him some more prasad. So later on there was a Chandal, and again in the end there was another person with dogs, and only this time Rantidev was left with only some water. So in one sense what we see, that King Rantidev, he was so much spiritually advanced that he could see. Yes, actually in this story it is mentioned that the demigods, they wanted to test Rantidev. Also what we see that Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita, Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmane Gavyahasini Suni Shvaya Sapakecha Sampandita Samadarshana. So when one gets the real knowledge, so here Krishna basically explains about the knowledge of the self. Vidya Vinaya Sampanne. It is mentioned that Vidya Dadati Vinaya. When one gets the true knowledge, he becomes very sober. So in material world, what today people are getting is that knowledge is called avidya, or it is also jada vidya. So that way people are today, the mankind, they have all the knowledge. We have books called encyclopedia. So you want to know anything, you can get any kind of knowledge. And they have put in such a way, and they are putting so many videos, how things are working in the material world, how the planetary systems they work, how human being evolves. They have put all their own knowledge. They have their own theory. Unlike the Mayavadis, what they say, that the Lord Narayan is situated in everyone, and hence everyone is Narayan. And how they address each other, Namo Narayan. So, but that is not the truth. There's one story, like one time, one Mayavadi, he was cooking some chapatis. He was making some rotis. So what happened, all of a sudden, a dog came, and whatever chapatis he had made and kept in the basket, so the dog took one chapati, and out of fear that dog started running. And those chapatis that Mayavadi had not applied ghee yet. So what he did, he took the ghee bottle and he started running behind the dog. He shouted, "Oh God, I have not yet applied the ghee. Please let me apply the ghee." This is what is like Mayavadis. Their understanding is totally different. And this so-called politically motivated people, they call people, especially poor people, as Daridra Narayan. Daridra means, actually Narayan means Lord, Daridra means poor Lord. What they say, the Lord is seated in everyone, but those who are poor, they address them as Daridra Narayan. Whereas they don't address the rich people as that rich Narayan or Srimant Narayan. This is their foolishness. So basically here, today's verse, what Krishna explains, that one who is not in knowledge, he cannot see. And we see in the Bhagavatam, the story about King Chitraketu in the 6th chapter, 6th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. One time, Angira Muni was visiting King Chitraketu, and what happened? King Chitraketu already, he had 1 million wives, but he didn't have a son, and he was not so happy. So what happened when the Angira Muni was there? Angira Muni, by seeing his face, what Prabhupada writes in the purport, face is the index of mind. By seeing the face of Chitraketu, he could understand, yes, this person, he wants a son very badly. So what Angira Muni, he told him, so there is no son in your destiny, but still I will make one yajna, and that yajna fruit you give to your most chaste wife, and you will get a son in due course of time. So this way what happened, that Angira Muni, he did the yajna, and King Chitraketu, he gave that paisam of the yajna to his most beloved wife. Her name was Akṛtātmāno. And after a 1 year time, she bore a child, and everyone was happy in the kingdom. But the co-wives, they were very critical, and they started becoming envious, and they were plotting how to kill this child, because the king was not much looking to them. So this way they were always trying to plot how to kill this child. So one day somehow they plotted, and they were successful in poisoning that child. So what happened, late in the evening, this queen Akṛtātmāno, she told the maid, "My son is sleeping for a long while. Why don't you wake up the child? I'll feed him my milk." So when the maid went near the child, sleeping child, what she saw, that the child's pranavayu, that child, it was a dead body. The eyes were rolled up, the jaws were open, and she started beating her chest and she started crying. So when queen came near, when she saw that dead child, she also started beating her chest. So this way the news reached the king, and somehow King Chitraketu came to that scene there near. And this way the full kingdom was in a complete, in a state of all they were in a mourning for the death of that son of the king. And here Angira Muni could understand what is happening there at the palace of Chitraketu, King Chitraketu. So he took along with him Narad Muni, and when they arrived at the palace of Chitraketu, so Narad Muni, by his mystic power, he brought that child back to life. And that child was sitting in the cradle and he was looking at everyone. And Narad Muni addressed that child, "Oh, see, all your parents and all the kingdom, they were lamenting for your absence. So now you are back. Why don't you join their company back?" But that child, what he said, "I had so many fathers in the past. So this way, in different life, different species, I take birth. Sometimes I am aquatic, sometimes I am a dog, hog, sometimes demigod, sometimes human being. So they were my parents for this life. But this time my tenure of life was very short. So no one is permanently related in this world. I was here in this material world for a short time." So hearing that child in the kingdom of King Chitraketu, so everyone got that self-realized. So there is a similar story. It comes in Chaitanya Bhagavad, where we see that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to do kirtan at the house of Srivas Thakur. And one day what happened, while he was doing the kirtan, all of a sudden, he also had one son of 5 years old. And that son, he left his body. And the women outside in the courtyard, they were lamenting very heavily. So when Srivas Thakur, he came to know that the women, they are making some kind of nuisance or whatever it is. So what he thought, this will affect the kirtan of Lord Gauranga Mahaprabhu. He came to the women who were lamenting there. What he told, "If you don't stop, I will tie in my neck a big stone and I'll drown myself in the Ganges." So hearing that, they stopped somehow. And here the kirtan was going on with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, all devotees, they were in bliss. But after some time, somehow Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was not feeling that ecstasy. So he asked some devotee, "Is there something wrong?" And some devotee told the truth, what exactly happened. So when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu heard what exactly took place, so he went to the body where the dead body was kept. Now again Chaitanya Mahaprabhu revived this child, and again that same child spoke the same story, that of Chitraketu's son. So here what we see, Chitraketu and all his kingdom, they were in complete gross ignorance. Whereas Srivas Thakur, he was in knowledge. So material world, what we see in today's world, people, they care for the body, but they don't care for the soul. And they are leading a blind life. Like the animals, especially if we see, like in African jungles or in Australia, there is one bird called ostrich. So this bird, whenever it sees some fearful situation, it will completely poke the head in the sand. But that doesn't mean that that this thing has gone, that trouble is gone. But what happens when it pokes the neck in the sand, the wild animals, they come and they eat up this bird. So today's world, more or less people, they are completely blind to self-realization. They don't want to know what exactly is happening. So in India, in the bygone days, there was one philosopher by name Charvaka Muni. And Prabhupada also quotes him. And what was his philosophy? Rinam kritva ghritam pivet, yaver jivet sukam jivet, bhasmi bhutasya deyasya kim punar agmano bhavet. What he said, that beg, borrow or steal, get ghee, eat nice food, live a good life. When we are dead, our body will be burned, and who knows that we will be born again. This was his philosophy. So this is like the animal. If we see, like in India, you will find if you travel in the inner countryside, so there are like meat shops where the goats are killed. So like if you see in a shop, there are 5 goats, and sometimes one goat killed in one day. So out of that 5 goats, those who are trying to enjoy together. So every day one goat is killed, but they can't see what is the reality. And today's world, more or less, people they are living in that this thing, what you say, unreality, which what they think is reality. It is like a phantasmagoria. We can give an example of a tsunami. Basically, people go to ocean side to enjoy a good life. So now, if we just mentally, you can picture 4 pictures in your mind. The first picture is that on a beach, people are enjoying life on a sunny day on a beach. And the second picture, you can imagine a wild tsunami is coming. And after some times, you can see in the third picture, you can see the complete destruction. And in the fourth picture, what you can see after a week time, people are trying to again relocate themselves. And again, in that picture, you can see again people are coming and trying to enjoy in the ocean beach. This is what is life going on. Now, you see in many countries, now whatever this pandemic is going on, so many countries, they want to stop everything, but people what they say, no, we have a right for liberty and we want to enjoy. So this is what is happening. So what Prabhupada writes, the importance of word yogina. So Prabhupada explains the present day, there are many so-called yogis and there are many so-called association of yogis, but they are actually blind in the matter of self-realization. Yoga societies of modern day are blind to self-realization. So now we should understand exactly, yoga means to connect. It comes from the word dhatu yuj, to connect. Basically, it is to connect with the Supreme Lord. And the propounder of Ashtanga Yoga system is called Patanjali. So Patanjali has divided this yoga system into Ashtanga Yoga. So in the beginning, what he explains that yama means restraints. There are 12 restraints for a sadhaka about how to control the body. A sadhaka should follow to advance on the path of Ashtanga Yoga. He should also absolutely lead a healthy and moral life. That first comes yama, then comes niyama, means regulations. Then there are also 12 niyamas required for cultivating spiritual life. Then in the third, it comes asana, postures. This is a rigorous discipline of the body. It consists of steady postures that help preserve the vital energy of the body. Then fourth in the series comes is pranayama. It's called breath control. Breath control includes inhalation, exhalation, and balance of breath. It is called Puraka, Rechaka, and Kumbhaka. When all these above 3 are synchronized, the mind is controlled. So then the fifth is called Pratyahara, withdrawal of the senses. This consists of withdrawal of senses from their respective sense objects. It is constant struggle for mind to withdraw a sense from its sense objects, because the nature of the senses is to chase after its objects. Then the sixth in line is called dharana. Dharana means meditation. This is essentially a mental discipline that consists of holding or fixing the mind on a desired object for a long period. The ability to keep one's mind fixed on any one object is the test of fitness for entering upon the last 2 stages, namely dhyana and samadhi. And this is what was explained to Arjuna by Lord Krishna in the 6th chapter. And then we come to dhyana, concentration of the mind. Dhyana means the even flow of thought about or around the object of attention held in the dharana. And ultimately in the samadhi stage, it is called self-realization. This is the last step in the eightfold yoga. In this stage, the mind is deeply absorbed in the object of contemplation. And what should be the object of contemplation? That is the Supreme Lord. But what we see, the more or less in today's world, people, they have different varieties of yogas. Like for example, Raj Yoga, Karma Yoga, Kundali Yoga, then Siddha Pranali Yoga, Hatha Yoga, Shad Chakra Yoga, Kriya Yoga. So I don't want to go in depth what they do exactly. So their following is like 6 blind men going to see an elephant. It is mentioned that one time in a village there were 6 blind men, and they got the news that one elephant has come to the village, and they thought, okay, let us go and see how the elephant is. So this way, the 6 men, when they went to see the elephant, because they were blind, how exactly the elephant looks. So the first person, he caught hold of the tail, and he came to a conclusion that elephant is like that of a broom. He caught the tail and he found it is like a broom. Then the second person, he caught hold of the legs, and what he thought, okay, the elephant is like a pillar. Then somehow one was just putting his hand on the belly of the elephant, back of the elephant. So what he said, that elephant is like a wall. Then somebody caught the trunk of the elephant, and what he said, yes, elephant is like a pipe. It is like a pipe. Then one fellow, he caught tusk of the elephant, and he said elephant is like a nail. And ultimately one caught hold of the ear of the elephant, and what he saw, oh, this is one kind of instrument which is used for cleaning the paddy, rice. So now here what we see, to some extent these people, whatever is their understanding, blind following the blind, so their conclusion is not totally correct. And today's modern world, more or less what we see, that modern world, the yoga is totally, the word yoga is completely spoiled. And today the situation is such that yoga has become doga. Doga means doing yoga with your dog. There are expert trainers who train the dogs in doing yoga, and people, those who people love keeping dogs, these people, they do yoga with their dogs. That's called, from yoga it has become doga. And what we see, yoga is not for, so many things what is going on in today's material world. Yoga is not for siddhis, beauty, health, sense gratification, or blood pressure, sugar control, weight loss, or good eyesight, pregnancy, or for partners, or tantric system, or siddhi, slim body, or curing all ailments, or prolong the life, or mind control. The yoga is not meant for all these kind of things. And what Prabhupada explains, they simply want gymnastic exercises, physical yoga. And practically what we see in the Western world, yoga is becoming, today's world, yoga is becoming more and more famous in Western world. And people, they are trying to enjoy with the body, and especially the media, TV and many other media channels are there. They are constantly bombarding on this kind of things, how people, they can enjoy their body. This way, we are constantly kept in illusion, and what we feel, life is for enjoyment. And this way the life is going on till the fag end of life. A fag end of life means like even they are very old, they can't walk, they are taking the help of a stick. Like one time Prabhupada was in Paris, and where he was staying in a hotel, he was looking down in the street, and he saw a good number of elderly people entering a bar. And he called his servant, he asked, yes, where these all elderly men, where they are going? And the servant, he told Prabhupada, they are going to the bar, where they are served liquor and where women they dance. So what Prabhupada said, see, this is what is life. They never know what real life is. Also, while Prabhupada was in America, there was one Indian man by name Mishra, and he had one yoga society and also a yoga studio where he used to teach yoga for his followers. Oftentimes, Prabhupada used to go there. But we should understand, in material world today, the yoga is completely, it is topsy-turvy. There is no reality in that. And in many places, people are given packages. Like oftentimes I go to Goa, and a good number of chartered planes, they come from Europe, many other countries. And the people, they come to Goa, to many hotels. So they are given a package for learning yoga where there are no rules and regulations. What they say, be in your own world, enjoy whatever you like, eat you what like, but just practice yoga. That is what they say, because they want to empty their pocket. This is what is going on in the name of yoga in today's world. So any Tom, Dick, Harry can become a yoga teacher, and he can teach yoga what he likes. Even the grossest is some place they are doing naked yoga. That is the height of yoga. So what Prabhupada explains, bhakti yogis, they are called yatantanopi akṛtātmāno. That means bhakti yogis are the real yogis, having realized self, world, the Supreme Lord. So now here they have realized the self, the world, and the Supreme Lord. Now here we should know, unless one is self-realized, unless one knows what is material world, like Krishna explains that what is the material world, Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadhi Dukkha Dosha Anudarshanam. And one should know what the Supreme Lord is. If one is a devotee of the Lord, like in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains, 10th chapter, Machit Madgata Prana, Bodhaventa Paramparam, Parasparam, Katahindashamam, Nityam, Tushyanticha, Ramanticha. Basically, those who are the devotees of the Lord, they are 24 hours, they are absorbed in speaking about the Lord's different pastimes. So this way, they are the real yogis or the devotees. But in the 6th chapter, in the last verse, Krishna explains about the topmost yogi. Krishna explains that yoginaṁ api sarvesham mad gaten antaratmana shraddhavan yo bhajate mam sa me yukta tamo mata. Now if you see in this verse, Krishna is giving his decision. Like in the cricket, there is a saying, umpire decision is final decision. Whatever umpire says, that has to be followed. In some games, the umpire is the ultimate authority. So we should know Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is the topmost authority. And what Krishna explains, like before verse 47, Krishna explained to Arjuna, Tasmad yogi bhavarjuna. Here, what Krishna explains, Tasmad yogi bhavarjuna means that, okay, Arjuna, you be situated in your life. Arjuna was a family man and he was a warrior. So Krishna wanted that Arjuna, yogina means he should be connected with the Lord. That means he should always remember the Lord. So what Krishna explains in the beginning of 7th chapter, Tasma sarveshu kaleshu mam anusmara yuddhasya. Tasma sarveshu kaleshu means in all situations of life, you remember me and carry on with your service. So today what we saw in today's verse, basically what Krishna explains is that a person with eyes of knowledge can understand the position of the soul. So now it is very difficult in today's world to convince people the size of the soul, the characters of the soul, how the soul is, because especially today the modern science, what Prabhupada explains, like today all these big personalities, especially the scientists, engineers, these politicians, sportsmen, film heroes, they are modern, they are Mahajans. They are modern Mahajans, and people, they blindly, they want to follow them. And like Prabhupada explains, like Darwin is also one of the Mahajan. And what Darwin said, that yes, mankind, we evolved from apes. Like my teacher, he told, from branches to benches. What he used to tell the boys in the classroom, that previously you were living on the branches on top of a tree, and now you are sitting on the benches. There is no much difference. So, but we should understand here what Krishna exactly wants to explain, that with the eyes of knowledge, one can understand the position of the soul. So now we can use some examples, like an engineer. Supposing if you want to build one nice hospital, or any center or hotel, anything you want to make a building, first we make a plan. The engineer will tell everything, what kind of things are needed, like cement, steel, then bricks, what quantity of things are required, how much space is required. So the engineer can make even one blueprint for that building. Everything he can put on the paper, because he has that knowledge. He has the eyes to understand, to perceive that building, although the building is not available. Like today, we show that TOVP, Temple of Vedic Planetarium. There is a video on that, how that building will look like in the future. By 2022, we expect that it will be open. So similarly, a doctor, when we go to the doctor, so oftentimes the doctors, they say, okay, you do all the checkups, also take an X-ray. So now when we take an X-ray of the body, so now on our own, we can't understand what is there in the X-ray. So because the doctor is trained in that knowledge, just by seeing that X-ray of the body, any part of the body, the doctor can understand, yes, where is the problem in the body. So similarly, a lawyer has the complete knowledge about the law of the state. So this way, it depends upon person to person. Like in the Niti Shastra, there is one verse, I can't recall the verse now, that one object, it is perceived by different people in different manner. The example is given, that of a woman. So now, one woman, if she is having a child, that child will look at the mother. That for a woman, that child, for that woman is mother. And that same woman, if she is beautiful, if a sensuous person sees, he will perceive her as an object for sense enjoyment. And if a tiger sees that woman in the jungle, what you will feel, yes, this is my food. But if a sage, if a yogi, if a self-realized person, if he sees that woman, he will look at her as a soul in a female body. So this is what is the understanding. So today's verse, basically Krishna explains that yes, one who is in knowledge can perceive the soul. So that what is Krishna has explained in the 5th chapter, that Krishna explains that Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmane Gavyasini Shuni Chaiva Swapakecha Pandita Samadarshana. One person who has the knowledge of the soul, what he can see, he can perceive either it is an elephant or a dog or a man or a cat. He can know, yes, there is a soul, but the body is different. So we should know either one is in the body of a small ant or one is in the body of a big elephant. The size of the soul will always remain the same. There will be no change in the shape of the soul. So one time, Prabhupada, he was taking one morning walk in some foreign country. He was at one harbor and he saw that one big ship was being towed by small ships. They are called tugs. and this was a very big, huge ship. And small 4 ships, they were towing the ship towards the jetty where the ship was to be stationed. So seeing that, Prabhupada, he told his disciples, see, that big ship, now its engine is off. That ship, it can't move on its own in the inner waters. So now these small 4 ships, they are called tugs. See how they are pulling that ship. So we should know that our body, let it be a body of a ant or that of a big elephant. In a outer sense, there is a big difference. But one who has the knowledge of the soul, yes, he can understand, yes, this is because of his past karma. He has got this kind of body. So Brahma explains in Brahma Samhita that he explains that from Indra Gopa, Yasvindra Gopa, Athvendra Yatha Swakarma, Bandharuna Rupam Phalabhajana Apnoti, Karmani Kintu Bhakti Bhajam, Goindamadi Purusham Tamham Bhajami. Now, what Brahma explains from a small insect called Indra Gopa up to Brahma means Indra, King Indra. So everyone is under the laws of material nature and they are being carried in different bodies in the material world. Only those who are in real knowledge, today's verse basically, Jnana Chakshu. Jnana Chakshu means eyes of knowledge. And today, material world, even people have that eyes, they can't perceive. So only those who are, this especially the verse, today's verse, what Krishna explains, those who are in knowledge, yes, they can understand, yes. Now there is one nice picture in the Bhagavad Gita, if you see, that one person has left the body and all the family, they're lamenting, and one sage is standing at the door, and this sage is looking, yes, that the soul has left the body. Jnana Chakshu means eyes of knowledge, and a person with pure mind sees with the eyes of knowledge. So for that, it is essential that one has to have a pure mind also. So now we'll come to the commentaries of our Acharyas. So Sridhar Swami, what he explains, it is extremely difficult to perceive the Atma or the immortal soul within one's etheric heart, even if endeavoring with acute discrimination and focused attention. Only some are able to succeed while others who strive do not. The pure yogis who have mastered the science of meditation and completed control of the senses, who assiduously strive for self-realization after great effort, perceive the Atma residing within their own physical body and distinctly different from it, whereas those who have not mastered the science of meditation, who have not managed to control the mind, who are impure in thoughts, who are unable to curb the impetuous impulse of the senses, hence are deluded, bewildered, and spiritually deficient, will be unable to perceive the Atma, no matter how hard they strive by studying the practice. Because today we are advanced very much in science. Now there is a camera nowadays. By that camera, we can take some subtle body pictures, whereby we can perceive the aura of our body. But to see the soul, what we have, that microscopes which are used in laboratory to see the germs. So it is mentioned that it can break the hair, tip of the hair, it can be divided in a microscope up to 270 parts. Whereas Krishna explains in the Puranas, it is explained that the soul, the part of the soul is that 1,000 part of the tip of the hair. It is literally totally impossible for the modern science. Now we have to see in the future how much advancement they will make. So now we'll come to Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. What he explains, those persons of discrimination are the endeavoring yogis. They see the soul in the body. Those of impure consciousness, akṛtātmāno, even endeavoring, do not see the soul there. So akṛtātmāno means those who are not pure in consciousness, those who are of impure consciousness, they can't perceive that the soul has left the body. So Baldev Vidyabhushan, he writes that he explains, the Lord elaborates on the point that those with the eyes of knowledge see, saying that it is difficult to see Atma. Yogis endeavoring by undertaking the process like hearing, see the Atma, cainaṁ, situated in the body, ātmany. So what he explains further, that mothers thought that they endeavor having impure, others endeavor having impure heart, akṛtātmāno, not having developed discriminating knowledge, acetasaḥ, do not see the Atma, cainaṁ. The impulse is that the Atma is very hard to understand. Like in olden time, the doctors, they used to use just to check our body pulse. They have one instrument called stethoscope. So the doctor only can understand about how it is to be used. So similarly, those who have the eyes of knowledge. So in the beginning of the chapter, what Krishna he told, with the knowledge of discrimination, one should cut the knot of material attachment. So in the beginning, in the first chapter of this Bhagavad Gita, 15th chapter, Purushottam Yoga, what Krishna he told in the beginning of the first 5 verses, how we can cut our attachment to this material world, how just by the knowledge, sword of knowledge. Also in Bhagavad Gita 4th chapter, Krishna explained that knowledge, fire of knowledge. One place Krishna explains in the 4th chapter. Also there is a knowledge of fire. When everything is burned by the fire of knowledge, one comes to the pure knowledge. So our Acharya Bhaktivinoda Thakur, what he explains, that material world, what we knowledge we get. So in one song, in Vaishnava songs, what he explains, Vidyara Vaibhava, that it is a Mayara Vaibhava. Jada Vidya, Mayara Vaibhava. Jada Vidya means dead knowledge. In modern education, whatever knowledge you are getting is a dead knowledge. There is no real knowledge. Like there was one doctor, he was a surgeon in Bombay hospital. So he got retired at the age of 60, because at the age of 60, the hands, they start shivering. So although he was a very good surgeon, so what happened? So when he was given a send-off party, so he was asked by his colleagues, yes sir, what you are going to do tomorrow onwards? So what he said, tomorrow onwards I can't come to the hospital. So I have to listen to my wife, like the Socrates, and my wife will be always eating my brain. I feel just being in the home, I'll become like a madman. So whatever it is. So what happens, a person who has no proper knowledge of the soul, although they have material degree, although they have so much opulence, good house, everything, but still they can't have a proper knowledge of the soul. Then Ramanujacharya, what he explains, perseverance of the aspirant is the persistence essential to ensure success. Once has successfully resorted to bhakti or exclusive long loving devotion to Supreme Lord Krishna, by cultivating this path, they purify their minds and hearts by yoga or the individual consciousness, attaining communion with the ultimate consciousness. Then realize the true nature of Atma residing within the etheric heart of the physical body and perceive it distinctly from the body. But if their efforts, even if industrious, are devoid of sufficient faith in the spiritual preceptor and unalloyed devotion to the Supreme Lord, and thus spiritually impotent and feeble-minded, they are handicapped and incapable of Atma Tattva or realization of the soul. Hence, they do not perceive it. So Madhvacharya, what he explains is that those who assiduously strive will perceive the Atma or immortal soul. After achieving spiritual intelligence, it is not enough to become complacent or be satisfied after acquiring equanimity of mind from meditation and reflection. One must continuously strive with great faith in the teaching of the spiritual perceptor until the goal is finally attained. Otherwise, there is always a possibility of contamination of the mind due to the influence of the gunas of the three modes of nature. The word akṛtātmāno means those of impure mind, and as such, they will be unable to perceive the Atma although possessing sufficient intelligence. A classic example of this is Ravana. So this is what is Madhvacharya explains. There is one pastime in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Like one time, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was doing this Mahaprakash Leela. He called all devotees except one devotee. So what happened when the devotee, especially Srivas Thakur, what he asked, "Oh Lord, why you are not calling this devotee?" So somehow now, this present moment, I can't call his name. So because this devotee, he used to go and mix up with all the other devotees. Mukunda, I think his name was Mukunda. So what he said, that Mukunda, when he goes to Brahmanandis, he is speaking their whatever they speak. When he goes to Mayavadis, he speaks like Mayavadi. And what he said, he's like that one animal which changes its color. So I don't like him. I don't want to see him. So this way, today, to conclude in today's verse, what we saw is that basically Krishna explains those who are in knowledge, they can perceive what is happening, and those who are not in knowledge, although they are practicing yoga, they can't perceive the soul. Only a person in knowledge can perceive. That is what is mentioned in today's verse by Lord Krishna. So thank you very much for listening to this class. So at this time, we have just 2 minutes left. If somebody has any questions, they can ask the question. They can switch on their mic. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, sir. If you have some questions, please switch on your, unmute your mic and ask the question.
Sure, I don't think anybody has any questions. So Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki, the Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Hare Krishna.